In Hollywood, Halloween comes every month. You're watching Beyond the Trailers review of You're Next.
Perfect day.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for Thy food, and help us to do our part.
We go home.
What is that?
This wasn't a random attack.
If you want to make movies. That's the simple yet tough advice given to many filmmakers and followed by one Adam Wingard. The 30-year-old director has been making horror movies for almost a decade, and with each one gets a little bit closer to Hollywood. Yes, horror has become a pipeline to the mainstream, not only supported by top-notch film festivals, but generating its own festivals as well. Wingard's horror films have played and been honored at the Rome Film Festival, the AFI Film Festival, the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal, the Boston Underground Film Festival, and more. But it's when he finally got into the prestigious Toronto Film Festival that he started to take even bigger steps towards Hollywood. His first flick at the festival, A Horrible Way to Die, managed to premiere there in the Vanguard section, and as a result was picked up for distribution by Starz Anchor Bay. By the way, another benefit of making movies is that you meet other people making movies. Mumblecore staple Joe Swanberg has starred in several of Wingard's films, and as his own star began to rise, his involvement with A Horrible Way to Die most likely helped get the horror flick into Toronto. And by having A Horrible Way to Die picked up by a distributor, Wingard had his first legitimate win. That enabled him to make You're Next, where he not only uses some of his regular actors, including Swanberg, but he added Hollywood ingenue Sharni Vincent to the cast, star of the popular Australian soap Home and Away, as well as Step Up 3D. Back to Toronto, Wingard went, this time premiering as part of the festival's Midnight Madness program, and won second place for the People's Choice Award. By the way, Midnight Madness has its own horror pedigree, as James Wan's Insidious premiered there in 2010. This time, Lionsgate, a household name, snapped up distribution rights, and 2 years later, Wingard has his first wide release in theaters. So has Wingard finally arrived in Hollywood, or does he have a few steps still left to go? I think Wingard still has a few steps left to go, because to be perfectly honest, You're Next plays like a very good first feature film, but not like something made by someone who's been making horror movies for over a decade. That said, though, interestingly, the best thing about You're Next is that I think it's a really good learning experience for aspiring filmmakers. Because this is a movie that anyone, literally anyone could make right now. It's that inexpensive to make and that cheap. I mean, if you could just go find any kind of camera, you could make a movie at this level if you might do what Adam Wingard does. And that's where the learning experience comes in. What you should take away from this is what it takes. This is what you need to do with your film in order to garner distribution. This is kind of like the starting level, at least for horror films. So I think any aspiring filmmaker should see You're Next with a notepad, and see it maybe multiple times to kind of get an idea what distributors are looking for and kind of like the threshold that you need to reach in order to be considered for a mainstream wide release, for the movie audience. So why doesn't it play like an established horror film? Why does it seem like someone's first film? Well, first of all, because it just comes across obviously as so low tech. I think a more experienced director can hide those things. The second problem is the acting. I mean, I'm glad that he has loyalty to his actors, but I think that he's not doing himself any favors by continuing to use them. I mean, Sharni Vincent obviously does a good job. I mean, she's a professional actress, and she pulls off some crazy, there's some plot twists in this movie that, had people laughing in the screening I was at. But I have to say, I think they kind of work to that degree because they as soon as your interest, I think, starts to lag a little bit in the film, these twists kind of like reinvigorate you. They wake you up a little bit. They get you reinvested in the film. So I think they did work a little bit to that degree. But the other actors in the film, they seemed the wrong age, and I know they're his friends, and maybe that's the problem. And one of them, I know they were nominated for acting awards at festivals, but I don't think anybody would be nominated for an acting award off of this movie, and as far as I can tell so far, they haven't. And it kind of had that typical problem of like, my biggest problem was the guy playing Sharni's boyfriend in the film. Even though he's a regular, he was, I think, the star of A Horrible Way to Die. He seems too old for Sharni, Vincent, and also he seems like kind of too old to be just visiting his parents at their house. And he also, I mean, I'm all for realistic casting and aging, but he seemed too old for his parents. The actors playing the parents seemed too young, so it all more seemed that people were cast because of their relationship to the filmmaker and not their ability to play the role, which I think is a hallmark problem in beginner films. I mean, take the time to cast your movies. Take your time to put out a casting call. Get age-appropriate actors and actors who have the right look for the parts, not just somebody who's like you promised or you just want to hang out with for while you're making the movie. Because I think it comes back to bite you. So that's my problem with that. That really hurt the film and I think made it seem like a first film. As for what was good about it, it was scary. I mean, I feel kind of guilty reviewing horror movies, kind of like this, watching the film like, oh my god, like what I saw through my fingers looked pretty good. And I had trouble watching this movie because I'm not a horror fan and I really dislike gore, and this was gory and scary. And that was well done. I mean, it did have good tension, and I did think, it did have a good plot. It wasn't, it wasn't ridiculous like some bad first films are. So, who do I think should see your next? I think horror fans would enjoy it if you like gory movies. This is certainly one of them. If you like just to be scared, I think you'll have a good time. I was certainly scared, and as I said, I think aspiring filmmakers would get a lot out of this movie, and I think that it would really help you get realistic expectations about what it takes to get your own film in theaters. So that's my thoughts on Your Next. If you've seen the film, write your thoughts down below. And as you all know, I've seen Insidious 2. And that's a very different movie than Your Next, and my review will be coming out for that soon. But in the meantime, it's embargoed. I can't release the review till the movie comes out. But until then, I hope you'll check out my interviews with the cast and filmmakers. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.